Welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon and I are recording a special Thanksgiving edition of the sophomore class. We are going to break down all of the important names from the 2024 NBA draft that are now currently in their second year in the NBA. Guys like Steph Castle, Alex Sarr, Zaccharie Risacher, Kyshawn George, everybody that you know. Obviously, Reed Sheppard we will talk about, even though we've talked about him a couple times already. I am excited to talk through this, and I'm sure Bryce is too. So with that being said, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown. Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? Raleigh has a couple questions for you in regards to the rules of basketball. Number one, she thinks it's absolutely silly that players have to have their jerseys tucked in, and she would like an explanation for that. Maybe you don't have one. I'll let her know if you don't agree with that. And secondly, Raleigh would like to know, when a player is shooting 2 free throws and the first one bounces back to him or her, why can't they just shoot it? Why do they have to throw it back to the official just for the official to throw it back to them?
These are amazing questions from Raleigh. Your daughter is a genius, first and foremost. So like the idea that I was always taught, because I was somebody that did when I played, like try to get away with the untucked shirt when I was younger. And the idea that I was told is that your defender can just like grab your jersey, right? How realistic is that? I don't know. Right. I think it's more of one of those uniformity things that, you know, people try to give little kids answers to than anything else. The second question, I guess it's because subs come in. That was my in between the free throws, right? Like I think that's kind of but look, if there are no subs at the table, look, if a guy didn't want to throw it back to the official, I don't know if I got a problem with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it just, so we're sitting here feast week. We're watching college hoops.
We're trying to speed up these games, Bryce.
She's trying to speed up the game. Listen, here's what I appreciate about my daughter. She's about the right things. She does not care about the uniforms. They can be tucked or untucked. It does not matter. We don't need the official touching the ball an extra amount of times. Like, let's just shoot the free throws. Let's walk onto the court and let's play hoops. And I kind of love her for it.
I love it. That's great. I absolutely love that. I think that's super smart on Raleigh's part. Shout out to Raleigh. One of the greats on this show, one of the great characters of this Game Theory podcast. So I want to be clear with people up front. We are recording this on Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. This is going out on Friday. So if, you know, God forbid, somebody that we talk about, I don't want to put names on that because I don't want to, you know, throw that into the world. But if somebody was to get hurt that we talk about, if somebody was to, you know, have like a 35-point game on Wednesday or Thursday night and we don't talk about it, I do want to be upfront with people that we're recording this on Tuesday for a Friday release, because at the end of the day, it's Thanksgiving. I want to give Bryce Thanksgiving. I do still want to keep to the podcast schedule that you guys know and love. I felt like this was probably the middle ground that made the most sense for everybody. Having said that, I will have quite a few videos hopefully going up on the Substack, gametheorysamv.substack.com. My plan, as soon as Bryce and I are done and I record, I think I'm doing the Saturday Slam and Jam with Andrew and Al over at the Athletic NBA show after this. My goal is to watch Cam Carr and do a Cam Carr video. He seems like one of the big early season risers for sure. I am definitely going to do a Nate Ament video off of the Houston game. Like I can 100% like guarantee people that is coming, because that is probably the biggest game of his season, I would say, or at least like the most important from a translation perspective for him. Already the numbers at the rim for Ament are not incredible, I would say. Not getting there a ton, and also finishing, I think, at like 45% going into the Rutgers game yesterday. I don't know what it is after the Rutgers game necessarily, but Really important game for Nate Ament. That will be up by the time that this show goes live on Friday. And I'm excited to kind of talk through what I saw in that game that is occurring here in like 4 or 5 hours, I guess. So Game Theory, samv.substack.com, Game Theory, samv.substack.com. We will have awesome video breakdowns the rest of the way for the rest of the year. And I'm excited. Hopefully we're building up like this beautiful database for people that want to go back and look at draft content. Like that's kind of the goal here. Anybody that needs video breakdowns of draft prospects, by the time January, February, March rolls around, we're probably going to have multiple of all of the first round picks. So you'll be able to really dive in and kind of see what you need to see from all of these players. So I'm excited to kind of talk through all of those guys. Game Theory, samv.substack.com. But today, Bryce, our goal is to talk about the sophomore class. And I will just pose this question to you from the jump. I thought this would be the most fun way to get into this. I am of the opinion that I can't really pick the singular player in this class that will be an all-star, but I think that somebody will eventually make an all-star game out of this class. Having said that, if you had to choose the one player that you would bet on to make an all-star game, who is that player?
Yeah, so this has definitely changed for me. Just to go back to my board, this was the first year I really did it. I had Sarr 1, Risacher 2. Actually, I had Clingan 3, Sheppard 4, Castle 5. I wasn't a huge Castle guy in that draft, especially compared to you. You and I kind of talked through that multiple times. As of today, based off what I've seen this year, with all due respect to Alex Sarr, and I think he, we've talked about this. We've broke him down a lot already this year. I think I would go Steph Castle. And part of that is his team is just going to be better. I have more confidence he's going to play on a better team the next 5 years with Victor Wembanyama, with De'Aaron Fox, and everything they have going in San Antonio. And I think Steph Castle, I don't know how many games he's going to end up having played by the time we do awards. I think he would have been maybe on my all defensive team. It would be close. And so the fact that he's already that good on one end of the floor while absolutely figuring it out on the offensive end without even shooting the 3 ball yet, the turnovers have been another thing, but those slowly trickle down before the injury. I think I would have the most confidence right now saying Steph Castle, although there are a few other players that aren't that far behind.
I think I would agree on the Castle front. I think that my take is I don't know if he has the highest percentage to make an all-star game, because I do think that Dylan Harper, being the number 2 guy there long-term, and then also De'Aaron Fox being there.
Sure. Just the role that he could be in.
Question the role a little bit, right? I do wonder if that role will allow him to make an all-star game, but I think he's probably the player I would want most, maybe, from this group. I think if you made me pick a single all-star right now, I think I probably would say Sarr.
Sure.
To be honest. But again, if you made me set the over-under on all-star games for Sarr, over-under 0.5, I'd probably be inclined to take the under, even though I do think he's the most likely player from this class that was just weaker to make an all-star game. And I do think that somebody from this class will eventually make an all-star game. I think that Reed is an interesting case here too, because Reed has been awesome to start the year. So let's just kind of dive into Castle first, and then we'll talk about,
my pushback on Sarr, not pushback, but my thing would be, I don't know that the Wizards ever win enough games for him to be considered an all-star without him also so being
Bryce.
Without him being the number 2 or number 3 option. You know what I mean? I don't think the Wizards are going to win enough if Alex Sarr is their best player. So we talk about Castle being, now you're talking about Castle potentially being the number 4 option. I don't think Sarr ever falls that far in the pecking order, but I don't think Sarr is the number 1 option, the unquestioned best player on the Wizards when they're actually winning enough games for him to be an all-star. There's probably at least one other guy, if not two other guys. And then you're having a similar conversation to what we're saying about Castle. And this makes it sound like I'm hating on Sarr. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just throwing out other sides of things when we're talking about this very specific conversation.
Yeah, like I wonder if he could make it in the same way that like Jaren Jackson made it, playing as like the number 2 guy on the team. Like they get Darren Peterson or something this year in the draft, and then like Sarr is your number 2. Like I think that's probably like a more, and being in the East is the other thing. Like it is just easier to make the all-star team in the East than it is in the West is another piece of this for me. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see where that falls. Let's talk about Alex Sarr, but let's talk about Steph Castle first. I'm sorry. But before we do that, we want to shout out our friends over at Cash App. The holidays are all about finding the perfect gift, but this time of year, not every deal is actually what it seems. Scammers are getting more creative, trying to trick people into sharing their payment info through methods like fake shopping sites and giveaways that are too good to be true. Luckily, Cash App's 24/7 fraud monitoring helps detect and alert you to unusual activity should someone gain access to your card, so you can act fast if something seems off. You can also lock or unlock your Cash App card instantly right in the app for extra control and peace of mind. Stay one step ahead of scams this season and keep your money secure with Cash App. For a limited time only, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash for real. Just download Cash App, use our exclusive referral code SECURE10, SECURE10 in your profile. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards are issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Incorporated brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Okay, let's talk about Steph Castle and why we've been so impressed with Steph this year. So you brought up the defense, and I do think that is where I want to start. I think Steph's defense is spectacular. I am such a fan of what he brings to the table on that end. We've talked about this earlier this year when we talked about Castle and the Spurs. I think that he is in a perfect situation to get the absolute most out of his defensive game, because playing in front of Victor Wembanyama allows him to be as aggressive as humanly possible and to really get into people's body and really get into people's frames, really like get underneath them and frustrate them and annoy them, while knowing that if he gets beat, he has Victor Wembanyama behind him. Right. So he gets to be this incredibly disruptive defender because their infrastructure is amazing defensively when Victor is out there. Now, obviously, he is missing time with this hip injury right now. I have really enjoyed what I saw of him before the hip injury. Offensively, I think he has made some real strides as a passer and as a playmaker. This is a guy that played point guard in high school. I would say is more of like a secondary ball handler who can really pass in the NBA, mostly because of the scoring. Where have you seen strides in Castle's offensive game this year? Because that to me is where the upside is going to lie here if he's ever going to make that all-star cut.
Yeah. Again, I think it starts with the defense. Real quick, are you with me that he would at least be in the conversation for an all defensive team? Okay.
Yeah. Well, look, like, you know, he's missed, what is it? Probably 4 games now already, 3 games. So we do have to keep track of that. I think that he's not going to be back for, I think it's like a week or so. So like he might miss 3 more here. You know, who knows? Like, you know, while we're talking, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe he's scheduled to come back like late this week. But, you know, I felt like the report was like 2 weeks and he's been gone for a week now. So, you know, we'll see if he can get to the game's limit. But as long as he gets to 65 and as long as, you know, Victor is there, hopefully as well for a good portion of those games, I think he has a real shot to be an all defense guy. I completely agree with you.
I think everything inside the 3-point line is where he's grown. I think his creativity of his handle has been really good. He has this like he uses this like fake jab to the inside. He did it in transition, and then he did it again in another game I watched, and he's just losing defenders. And
it's like a stutter rippy kind of.
It's so like he makes the defender think he's going to rip to the inside, and instead he just like fakes it. And there's a suddenness. He can play with physicality. He's getting to the free throw line more, 2.3 more times per game this year. His minutes are up a little bit. The other thing is, you just look at the field goal percentage in general, Sam. He's actually shooting worse from the 3-point line right now, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit before we move on, but better overall from the field. And that's because he's so good in the mid-range. His 3-point jumper off the dribble is horrendous right now, but his 2-point jumper off the dribble is almost at 60%. I think he looks very comfortable in the mid-range, playing with physicality, holding leverages and advantages and all of that.
Yeah.
And so that and his creation, the one thing I will say is he's 41% on unguarded catch and shoot threes. Again, his dribble jumper from 3 is horrendous. His guarded 3-point shot is horrendous, but it does give me a little bit of hope of him being that secondary, like off ball guy, because I think he's a good cutter. I think he can be a good offensive rebounder. And if he can just hit catch and shoot threes and some of these other, obviously more consistently, the offense is the only thing right there. It's really just about the jumper. That's a really, really good two-way player.
I actually think he's been basically fine on offense this year too. Like the turnovers are a real issue.
Yeah.
But even like according to the advanced numbers right now, he's still a positive offensive player despite turning the ball over 4 times a game and shooting 24% from 3. Do you know how hard that is, guys?
You got to be really efficient everywhere else. You have to be super efficient everywhere else.
That's right. And he shoots 62% from 2-point range. He doesn't take a ton of really bad mid-range jumpers. He gets to the line an awful lot, despite the fact that he only makes like 70% of his free throws. Like he gets to the line a ton, 6.5 times per game for a guy that's 21 years old, and he averages 7.5 assists per game. He crushes the offensive glass for a guard, right? Like he gets 1 to 2 of those per game. Right now, he has a true shooting percentage that is right at league average. Like it is. He has been basically efficient this season. Like he's been baseline efficient, I would say, in terms of where he needs to be in order to be a high level NBA player. The driving game is what continues to stand out to me. The pace, he has that big hop step too, that always stands out to me. He is so good at playing off of 2 feet and using his strength off of 2 feet. That's the big reason why the name that just continues to stand out to me when I watch him is Jimmy Butler. Like, a lot of his moves seem to be taken from the Jimmy Butler school of little tricks of the trade, right? That little stutter rippy kind of move that you talked about, the big hop step to get into his shots, the ability to get to the foul line and drive, right? The super, super high level defense that he's bringing on a night in, night out basis. It feels like Jimmy Butler-y to me, like Jimmy Butler starter kitty to me. And to hit that level, he's going to have to at least get to a certain point from the mid-range as a shooter, right? Hopefully he gets to a point from the 3-point line, but we are going to have to get to a point at least where we can keep defenses honest from that like mid-range, 10 to 18 feet or so in area. So far this year, he has only taken 19 shots from 10 to 16 feet. He's made them at 58%, and then he's made one of his 2 long mid-range shots as well. So super small sample. We don't want to take too much away from it, but there are at least some flashes like once per game that he can get into that mid-range area and score in a way that, at least gives us some hope here long-term. Overall at the rim, Basketball Reference has him shooting 75%.
Yeah.
Right now. He's just a physical dude who's able to take bumps, absorb contact, and be super strong at the basket and draw a lot of pressure toward the rim while also being able to make high level passing reads in kickouts as well. I loved the early, De'Aaron Fox games where they were almost playing him as the point and letting De'Aaron just kind of go off ball and score a little bit. It felt like to me, really interesting player. I'm interested to see all of the Dylan Harper, Steph Castle, De'Aaron Fox minutes. We still haven't gotten to see enough of those. I don't know if we've seen any of them, to be honest, off the top of my head. But, those are the three most important players to me after Victor Wembanyama on this team. And we haven't gotten to see them together, at the very least for a substantial margin. I'll look up the exact number here in a second, but I feel like we haven't even gotten to see them once this year. So can we get to a point where we see them all on the court at once, and Castle guards up the lineup, and Dylan Harper brings his high level point of attack defense, and then De'Aaron brings some high level point of attack defense, and then they all, filter guys to Wemby and allow him to clean things up. I think that Castle is the guy that I would most want from this class right now, if you made me pick one guy, because I do think the ceiling is still quite high for him, even if he's on a roster just loaded with talent.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the defense, but I think I want to emphasize he's taking the toughest matchups. So, he's trying to defend Steph Curry, and I realize Steph Curry, not many people are going to have a whole lot of success doing that. But even in that game, he still scored 13 points, got to the free throw line 8 times, got 9 rebounds, 6 assists. So like he's taking the.
We won't talk about what Steph got in that game.
No. I realize that Steph got him, and Steph is going to get a lot of people. But my point is, we talk all the time about the energy that Steph expends running around. Well, imagine being the guy that has to chase him around and then also go play offense. So my overall point here is he's taking the toughest perimeter defensive matchups and doing all of the things we just talked about on the offensive end in terms of creating, finishing at the rim, knocking down some mid-range jumpers, all of that. So he's already doing that defensive part and doing the offensive, where he's scoring 17 points a night on pretty good efficiency without a 3-point jumper.
Yeah, no, I agree. Castle looks awesome. I have no strong notes on him necessarily. He looks like a terrific player. If the 3-point jumper comes, he's like a real swing for them to me.
Yep.
Before we move on, we want to shout out our sponsor, Nutrafol. Look, if you're dealing with hair issues like thinning or shedding, but you're totally stuck on what to try next, we all know that there are a ton of products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's exactly why it's worth giving Nutrafol a closer look. It's not just hype, it's physician formulated, clinically tested, and even recommended by dermatologists. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. You can feel great about what you're putting into your body, since Nutrafol hair growth supplements are backed by peer-reviewed studies and NSF Contents certified. That is the gold standard in third-party certification for supplements. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Game Theory. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code Game Theory. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code Game Theory. Bryce, let's go to the Wizards guys next, and let's talk about Sarr.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Kyshawn George within this conversation as well. And we'll probably mention Bub Carrington at the end, although I'm not wildly enthused about talking about Bub. I've already done my I'm a big dumb moron on Sarr thing. If people want to listen to that, you can go back a couple weeks ago and say, you can hear me call myself a big dumb moron about 6 times for having ranked Alex Sarr 11th in this class in the offseason because of the rim issues, because of, some of the defensive issues we saw last year, the lack of rebounding that occurred last year. He's cleaned up a huge portion of those problems just by getting stronger. What have been your impressions of Sarr this year? We'll talk about some of the, concerns that we see as well here. Obviously, he started shooting the ball quite well from 3. He's back down to 34.8% right now, 68% from the line, still not getting to the line a ton. But I think we're seeing a ton of really, really important growth in terms of his ability to get to the rim and finish at the rim, which to me was by far the thing that like frustrated me the most, given that he only shot 45% at the rim or from 2-point range last season. I think had the second worst mark from the rim among all bigs last season behind Andre Drummond.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some real worry coming out of his rookie season, just in terms of, okay, what's this going to look like? Like, what is the path moving forward? Is he going to be anywhere close? I will just speak for myself of what I thought he was going to be, because he only shot 31% from 3 on 5 attempts. The rebounding was a question. He was good defensively, but it wasn't like this. So it was like, what is he going to do at a super high level? Because he's not doing the big guy things. He's not finishing at the rim. The 2-point percentage, as you mentioned, is low. And he came back this year and he's done all of those things. Like, credit to him for going into the offseason, I would assume recognizing what he needed to improve on and doing so. He's 10% better from 2-pointers on 4 more attempts per game. He's brought the 3-point attempts down, and it still is up. Even though he's at 35%, that's up from what we saw last season. It would be nice to see him get to the free throw line more, but the rebounding is up. And here's what I'll say about just like raw numbers. It's about the same minutes per game, like 2 minutes per game more, but more offensive rebounds, more defensive rebounds. The defensive disruption is good. We've talked about how we envision him as a defender, not necessarily this point of attack guy, but more of the Evan Mobley-ish, like roam around and off-ball rim protector, those type of things. At least for me, I will say this. He has gotten stronger. Looking at notes from the last 2 games I've watched, it still showed up a lot that he needs to get stronger, though. I will give you a very specific example. He gets Cade matched up on him, and Cade just pushes him off the block. And then he tries to attack him, and Cade doesn't give him any room. And Cade's not a small guy, but as a big, you should be able to take a Cade Cunningham switch and at least hold your ground or maneuver closer to the rim. And he just didn't have the strength to do it.
So Alex Sarr last season on layups, 45.1%, which is just a really, really tough number, to be honest with you. This season, he is at, I'm pulling it up as we talk, 51% on layups, but a higher percentage of his attempts are coming, I believe, via dunk as opposed to layup this year, which is really important. Still not really hitting like hooks and floaters at a high enough level. 42% on the little floater push shot. He has 29% on hook shots right now. Over his last 5 games, it's worth noting he has shot 47% from the field, 25% from 3. So things are coming down like a little bit, right? It's worth at least bringing that to the table. But I do see at least a difference in mentality here. Whereas last year, I think he didn't really have the ability to get all the way to the rim consistently. This year, he has the ability to get all the way to the rim consistently and like absorb contact and at least like anchor his ground a little bit more consistently in a way that he really struggled with at a substantial level last season. Look, I do think that a piece of this is that he's like in the numbers, at least, right? Is that he's playing on a bad team and they don't have anyone right now. Like that Wizards team is egregiously bad. They're going to be without Trey Johnson here for a little while. It feels like, I think that they're saying at least a few weeks now. I think that he still has some real upside is what I would say. I really love the passing ability out of short rolls. I think that's a huge piece of what makes Sarr such an interesting big man long-term, that passing ability out of short rolls to be able to make plays for his teammates. Defensively, I do think that he is like substantially hindered by how bad their guards are on defense. Like Bub Carrington, Trey Johnson, CJ McCollum, those 3 guys particularly stand out to me as guys who have struggled. Kispert is not overly fast, obviously. Even like Whitmore's like working harder on defense this year, I think, which is really good. But there are still some breakdowns that occur there. Even I would like to see him with better on-ball defenders to know exactly how to evaluate his ball screen defense, because I think that oftentimes he ends up in no man's land a little bit in ball screen defense, but I can't always tell if it's because he thinks his guard has gotten like obliterated by a screen or is like taking a terrible angle around a screen and he has to get like a little bit closer to the touch point and thus can't quite play as deep as what he's supposed to all the time. I think that there are like contextual factors with his defense that particularly in ball screens, which is where I think he struggles the most right now, that I would be interested to see a little bit more of him playing with like high level defenders is where I'm at.
Yeah, it's always an important context whenever we talk about these bigs and where they're at, specifically in ball screen coverages, because you can have perimeter defenders that are just so poor that there's almost nothing that the big can do about it. So I think that's fair. And, you know, I always bring up offensively for these rebuilding teams, making sure you have some veterans that can at least space the floor and knock down shots to keep you competitive and keep floor spacing. I think this is another point for rebuilding teams is, hey, it's not bad to have at least one or two good perimeter defenders. And I know it's not their fault that Coulibaly, was injured to start the year and is kind of just working himself back. Maybe throughout the year, we can get some really good possessions of Coulibaly on the point of attack and Sarr then defending the ball screen and, be able to really evaluate him there for some, throughout a game, throughout a stretch of games, something like that.
Yep. I think that's right. I would love to see them like acquire a high level defender. Yeah. Honestly, at the deadline, like I think they're probably going to try and move some of these guys at the deadline, but I would be interested to see him. I'd be interested to see this team, even if like it's just taking a flyer on like a Devin Carter or something who comes available in Sacramento because Sacramento doesn't know what to do with him right now. Right. Like I would be interested even in just that, like somebody who can like work and fight over the top of screens a little bit more consistently just to see what it looks like. Even if it's like taking a flyer on a younger guy, you know what I mean?
Sure.
That would be that'd be a good thing to me. The other guy here that we want to talk about is Kyshawn George. I would definitely have Kyshawn George. Let's see here. I'd definitely have him in the top like 7 or 8 of guys if I was like redrafting this class right now. Like it might be top 5, honestly. Like it's really close. Kyshawn looks like a real dude, in my opinion. Somebody that will grow into being a really high level role player in the NBA. Maybe some upside for more, even beyond that. He is a little bit older than some of these guys. Like he turns 22 here, I think, in like a couple of weeks. But I don't know, man. Like I've loved what I've seen from Kyshawn this year. I think he's been really solid on both ends of the court. Like it feels like to me that I even think he's been a little bit better than Coulibaly on defense this year when I've seen the Wizards play. Like I think I believe in him just a little bit more to like do the right things off the ball consistently on defense. Obviously he's knocking down shots at a super high level. He's hitting 44% of his threes, which is a massive, massive number for him. Passes the ball super well. We know that. That's always been a big part of his game. The whole pitch for him coming in was super high level passer, real shooter, right? My questions and why I didn't have him as a first round grade was the athleticism in the strength level. And what he has done an amazing job of is improving the strength level, which has allowed him to be able to absorb that contact whenever he attack closeout driving to the rim or absorbs contact with his chest defensively, because I thought he was really bad defensively at Miami. That whole team was really just atrocious on defense, but I thought he was not great as well. He was really good as a rookie defensively, at least active and aggressive. But then, this year, I think he's continued, to at least be at that level while taking on a bigger offensive load, which is an important factor when you're talking about guys who can play on both ends.
Yeah. I know we're not talking about Coulibaly, a game I watched. I literally put just like, I'm gonna have to give him some time to adjust. Like I couldn't figure out what to think about him watching that game against the Bulls. And so I'm interested to round back with him. I think Kyshawn George has been really good. So just for context, Sarr leads the sophomore class in points per game. Steph Castle second, Kyshawn George is third. And I realize these are guys that are all playing, more minutes than maybe some of these other players we'll talk about. Kyshawn, I think, leads the He's right behind Steph in terms of minutes per game. He rebounds the ball at a high level. We talked about Alex Sarr, rebounding. Kyshawn George is only half a defensive rebound behind Alex Sarr. So I think what is most exciting to me is just this all-around versatility that he's showing. The defensive impact, the offensive shooting. We'll see how much it holds. The passing, the playmaking, the rebounding. There's a little bit of like Jalen Johnson. I don't know that he's going to get to that level of player. Obviously, Jalen Johnson is big time and a much different athlete than Kyshawn George is. Like that would be a big limiter in Kyshawn George ever being that level of a player. But it kind of reminds me of that light just because it's so versatile and he impacts the game in so many ways, the same way Jalen Johnson does. It just, I don't think there's a way he gets there. No, he's going to be a better shooter than Jalen Johnson and a better defender.
Explosive.
But he's not as explosive. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Jaylen gets a lot of his play in transition.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like Kyshawn, I don't think is ever going to be able to like explosively get downhill in that way, and like force defenders to account for him. But he shoots the ball at a high level, and I think almost like fits better next to a lot of, team situations.
Yeah.
Whereas Jaylen, you kind of have to
let him play off the ball.
Yeah, like Jaylen, you have to like kind of form some things around him.
Yeah.
To make it work. With Kyshawn, like I don't really think you can do that. Like I think he just like kind of blends into whatever situation you have, which makes him this incredibly malleable rebuilding piece to have. Because what are the things we talk about all the time that you want for a rebuilding situation? You want guys who can shoot the ball to help your stars develop.
Yep.
And you want guys who can bring you some semblance of infrastructure on defense, right? And Kyshawn does both of those things, and he does so on a rookie scale deal for the next 2 years after this one, which is even rarer. Like typically you have to go out and, pay $20 to $25 million a year for a guy like this for veteran presence or whatever.
Yeah.
But, with him, he just does it already at 22, and there's still some room for growth in his game. If he averaged like 20 points, like 6 rebounds and 6 assists in a game, like per game in his career at some point. That's not that far off what he's doing right now. Like, I don't think that would blow my mind at all. Will he do it for a good team? I don't know, but like, I think he'll probably be pretty close to that at some point.
And I think that's where like he just makes me think of Jalen Johnson, even if they get it done in very different ways. It's just like the all around production of being able to score, being able to rebound, being able to get assists. And I like him. He's a good player. He's a really good player. Washington should be excited about him as well.
Yeah, I agree. The one guy they shouldn't probably be that excited about is Bub Carrington, unfortunately. Bub, it just can't do anything.
Hold on. Let me throw can I throw you in numbers at you?
Please do. Oh, goodness. By the way, do you know who leads this rookie class in minutes played?
Total minutes played?
Yes. Throughout the course of the year and a half that they've been in the
NBA. Going back. Well, Bub played 82 last year. So
Bub has played more minutes than any player in this class so far.
You want to guess what Bub Carrington is currently shooting from 3 right now? Currently shooting from 3 right now.
I believe it's quite poor.
No, it's opposite of poor.
What is it?
45%. You want to guess what he's shooting from 2-point right now?
Oh, that's very poor. I know he's shooting like 34% from the field or whatever.
It's opposite of what you would think.
Yeah, I guess it's like 25. Yeah.
26% from 2. Sam, he is shooting 45% from 3 on less than 3 attempts and 26% from 2 right now. And he doesn't get to the free throw line. I was looking at totals for his career. He's played all of those minutes, almost 3,000 minutes. And he hasn't even shot 100 free throws yet.
It's kind of bonkers. I mean, we had that running total last year of him taking 85 free throws in 82 games. We are now at 99 free throws in 98 games.
Yep.
That's, for a lead guard, that's a real problem. That's a real significant issue, unfortunately. Bub Carrington this year at the rim, even including transition, 7 for 28 right now. for 25%. He's 4 for 20 at the rim in half court settings for a robust 20% this season. Again, if you look at the dribble jumpers from the mid range and from three, like they're not catastrophic. He, from the mid range, he's shooting 33%, which is not good enough, but like he's shooting 40% on pull up threes. His catch and shoot number from three, 41%. I think that the issue is that he just might not look here's the real issue. I said this at the time, and I said the same thing about Jeremiah Fears, and Fears is just faster and quicker and has ultimately been able to get into the lane and be a little bit more successful than what Bub has been. But Bub I think that he probably would have been better off with one more college year and continuing to fill out his frame and getting substantially stronger. Now, who am I to say that this guy who has played more minutes than anybody in his class in the NBA and went in the lottery should have gone back to college? Obviously that like doesn't track for people and it's silly, and he's already made, I think it's something like $9 million and is locked into another $5 million next season. So, I'm all for it. But when I watch Bub, I feel like we're on the precipice of, are we sure he gets his option picked up next year? Or are we sure that he doesn't get traded at the deadline as like part of a salary matching thing in order to make a deal work? And they open up minutes for like Trey Johnson when he comes back from his hip injury, and open up minutes for, to give AJ Johnson a look, or maybe they bring someone back in a trade that's interesting, right? Like, I worry that we're on the precipice of stuff of like Bub being in some trouble here.
Because he's not that great defensively either.
That's the issue.
Like, you can't do all of these things offensively and then not be majorly impactful defensively, giving your team and organization a reason to be like, okay, let's wait for him to figure this out on the offensive end because the defense is really good. I will give him this. He plays extremely hard. Like, I notice him when he's out there.
Totally.
Like, he plays hard as heck. But I think I wrote it. It's chaos without a plan to me. You have to have a little bit more of a plan. You can get away with this off the bench where maybe it's not always super efficient, but you come in and you just rebound and you cause some disruption defensively, but then you got to be able to knock down some shots, and it has to be a little more controlled than what it looks like right now. And he's a second-year player. To what you just said, he's young. Hopefully he figures it out. I hope this doesn't come off like we're not like enjoying this. Like, we were both super high on him. I want him to be successful. I want all these guys to be successful. It just hasn't been that right now.
Yeah. Like here's the deal. Like, he came into the NBA quite young. He was 19 for the entirety of his season last year. He is like 20 and a half right now. And he is still incredibly skinny and just like doesn't have ways to get into the lane and actually be threatening in the lane. Right. On top of the fact that he's fine as a passer, but like, he's not I'm making wildly advanced reads right now passer, in part because he doesn't force help all that consistently, right? Because teams feel like they can just recover back onto him and force tough jumpers. Right now, when Bob Carrington is on the court, the Wizards lose their minutes by 23.7 points per 100 possessions. When he's off the court, they lose their minutes by 7.2 points per 100 possessions. That's a massive 16-point swing. Look, like there are some weird things happening there. Like, they shoot way better from three with him off the court or with him on the court. They shoot way better from three with him off the court. And then opponents are shooting 40% from three with him on the court, which, like, he's not breaking down that badly.
Correct.
To where,
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with
like,
that.
That's happening, right? So there are noise within those numbers. But I also don't think that like he's solving problems when he's out there either right now. Again, like I just wonder if he's one of those guys that would have been helped by returning to school, just by like getting stronger for a year and entering the NBA maybe a little bit more ready. Right.
Sure.
Okay. So the next place I want to go is Zaccharie Risacher.
Okay.
It's been an interesting year for Risacher, I would say. Because I almost feel like it is almost what we thought it would be with Risacher, or at least what I thought it would be. I had Risacher ranked 5th in that class. I had him in like the top group, but I would have taken all of Sarr, Reed, Castle, and Clingan ahead of him. I do think that there are parts of his game that I think look better. I actually do think that he looks a bit more explosive and like stronger physically right now. And I don't think it's like totally hindered his movement ability. He looks like a little bit less fluid to me, but not wildly so to where I'm concerned. I think that the strength has been a bonus, and you can see it in the way he finishes the rim. You can see it in the way that he is, able to defend and absorb contact like a little bit better right now. But again, like the big thing that you and I talked about pre-draft with Risacher was that he has always been this incredibly streaky shooter.
Yep.
And, in the year with Borg, he went through a massive, like crazy start where he shot like 50% through the first 15 games. And then for 3 months, he shot like 25% from 3. And then for the last, month and a half of the year, he was back up to like 50% from 3 again. Right now, we're in the midst of one of those 15 game, drops where, he's at 29% from 3 and he's shooting 62% from the line, and the mechanics look all over the place and funky. He is a guy that clearly has great touch, but the mechanics look different on a lot of the shots to me. So I don't think we've seen, because of that, we haven't seen a leap from him this year is kind of the issue. I don't think he looks any worse than what he looked last year. It's just that the shot isn't falling at the end of the day. And he is like limited in terms of what he can do off the bounce. And that's always been true.
That's the thing right there, is everything else about his game. Even if you just want to say it's fine, like I think he's fine as a defender. The athleticism has popped a little bit in transition, but it's not like he's elite as an athlete. He's a really good off the ball cutter and mover, but I don't know that I watch him and think like what I do whenever I watch Franz cut off the ball or stuff like that.
Yeah.
He has to be a good shooter because, like you just mentioned, he's limited off the bounce. He's fine as a defender. It's not like he's dominating the boards or throwing these crazy passes that make you go, wow. He doesn't turn it over either, but there's just a lot of, it's fine. And it's a lot of, I don't see a ton of impact when I watch the Hawks. And I've watched a lot of Hawks this season because this was a roster that really interested me, even without Trae Young. And I just don't end up taking a whole lot of notes because it's fine. And that's okay if you're shooting 37% from 3. But whenever you're shooting 29% from 3 and everything else is just fine and not overly impactful, it doesn't really stand out. So I would say it's just been a plateau for him this year so far. Like, not like he's at 6 points a game and is unplayable, but there definitely hasn't been a jump. And I would say a slight backwards, but mostly almost exclusively because he's shooting the 3-point shot worse than he did as a rookie.
Yeah, and look, like through his first 35 games last season, he shot 29% from 3, right?
Yeah.
And then if you look over the end of the season, he was drastically better, right?
Sure.
Or I'm sorry, it's the first 40 games that he shot 30 or 29%. And then you look at the last 35 games that he played, he was at 42% from 3. It's just very streaky with him as a shooter, and you're going to go through these runs, and that's his next key. He needs to figure out the shooting because he's a shooting dependent player to be like a real starting quality, high level wing. Now, the thing that you brought up and the thing that I always note with Risacher is that he always knows where he's supposed to be. He is very conscientious on defense in terms of like helping the helper and being in the right place defensively and making sure that he knows where he's supposed to be. He is very sharp and intuitive as a cutter, like you said, in terms of knowing when to baseline cut, knowing when to 45 cut, finding those open areas. And I think that's been even weaponized a little bit more this season with Onyeka shooting threes, with having Kristaps Porzingis on the roster. They've been able to find shots for him at the rim a little bit easier as well. But again, the reason I had him at 5th was like, I thought he was going to be a good NBA starter. I just didn't see like a ton of crazy upside with Risacher, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing, right? And if it continues to be like a very streaky situation as a shooter, it'll be interesting to see where he kind of falls with his career.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. I had Risacher too because I kind of believed in all the things you just said. I thought he understood and knew the right way to play, and I thought he still impacted the game even when he wasn't making shots. But I just believed in the shot a little bit more than what we're seeing right now, and thought that maybe the streakiness would be more consistent, right? Like the streakiness as a young player in a professional league, I kind of, lent some weight into that and thought, okay, when he figures it out consistently, I didn't think he was going to be a star, but I thought this is a high level wing that spaces the floor, has a little more athleticism than what he's getting credit for. And then all of the defensive impact as well. Got to figure out the shot.
Yep. I think that's right. Okay. The next guy up, we're going to go to Reed Sheppard. Reed Sheppard went 3rd overall in that class. If you take away those first 2 games where everybody melted down about is Reed okay? Is Reed cooked? Is Reed like not a real player? Everything like that. He's averaging 14 points, 2.4 rebounds, 3.3 assists versus only 1 turnover, shooting 53, 47, 73 from the line now. Doesn't take a lot of free throws, but only doing that in 24 minutes. So if you look at like the per minute numbers, he's been really quite valuable and useful for the Rockets at this point. A serious weapon in terms of being able to like relocate for 3-pointers in order to be able to like run around screens and knock down threes. That's been the place where I think he has been most just utterly threatening, is if he's coming around a screen from Steven Adams or from Şengün and just like lighting and firing from distance. So far this season, he has made 9 of 19 of his threes as a pick and roll ball handler, which is pretty aggressive for somebody who is like coming off the bench as like a firecracker scorer, right? I mean, I think there's still a lot of upside here. Bryce plays the game the right way. He is immensely threatening and dangerous as a shooter and scorer. I don't know, man. I think that there's a lot here to be excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely figured it out. I think he and they have figured out his role offensively, how to weaponize him. He's one of those off-ball floor spacer shooters that is going to leverage that into the mid-range pull-up, which I think has been really good. That's probably one thing I doubted more than I should have with him. He has real elevation and athleticism, especially into that specific play type. And then also using that to create shots for other players, for his teammates. You can run him off a staggered and then slip it whenever the defense messes up, whether they're switching or hard hedging that or whatever. I think defensively, I think he has figured out how he has to be successful, which I don't love, as you know about me, but I think it's what has to work for him, which is he's not always going to stay in solid position because he's not going to hold up physically. He's going to go for the dig, the steal, the deflection, the reach around, the whatever. He just has to live in that world. Now, do I have some concerns about what that may look like in the playoffs or something like that? Sure. But right now, I think he's figuring it out that I have all of these athletic wings around me that can hopefully make up for it. And he's really, really good with his hands, Sam. Like he's really good digging and reaching and all of that. And so he's making it work by just being disruptive enough.
Yeah. 1.6 steals per game in that time. If you remove the first 2 games of the year. I am really interested because obviously the Rockets care about what the playoffs look like at the end of the day. Like that's the mode that they're in and that's the mode that they should be in. Frankly, I am really interested to see how teams attack him in the playoffs because I think that like Oklahoma City, we saw it in the opener, obviously with them particularly, could really aggressively target him with Shea and with J-Dub once J-Dub gets back as well. San Antonio theoretically has these big guards down the road, maybe not for this year. They're still quite young, but in Castle and Dylan Harper that
Castle can do it.
Mismatch guys.
I was going to say that's what's interesting about what he can do. Curry got him throughout the game. We don't have to relitigate that, but Castle then had Curry on him defensively sometimes because of that matchup. And Castle was strong enough just to walk him down and, attack him that way.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And I'm fascinated to see how they go about kind of mitigating his defensive flaws in the playoffs because he is a guy that you have to scheme around. And I think this Houston team and coaching staff particularly, that is their superpower. They are amazing at coaching around like scheme based things. Like Şengün is a fine defender now. Like I don't want to sit here and say he's a bad defender. He's definitely not a bad defender now. But like if you watch them throughout the game, like there are moments where he will like freewheel, and the Rockets do a really good job of like making sure that they know that Alpi is going to go freewheel a little bit on defense and like go and make sure he has help behind him when he does that. Right.
So I watched the Suns game this morning. I've watched the Rockets a ton, but I hadn't watched Phoenix recently, and I wanted to get a Phoenix game in. And that's what I thought watching Reed defensively was. It's almost like Ime and the staff have empowered him to do this defensively. And then and I don't know this factually. It's just the vibe I got watching was they have told him, hey, this is how you're going to win. It's, you're not Aaron Holiday, who I love, by the way, and everybody else now knows, hey, Reed's probably going to take a chance. You got to be ready to make up for it. The other thing that I want to make real quick from that game, I don't know that I've loved his like creation for others as much as other people have through the early portion of the season. I thought he did a pretty good job in that game. You saw him using eye manipulation, using ball screens, finding teammates. I don't even know what the assist numbers ended up. It may not even be impressive, but that was the first game I've watched this year where I've gone, okay, there's a little bit more creation for others, not just creation for himself in terms of getting to that mid-range jumper or getting to a dribble three-pointer or whatever. So that intrigued me a little bit more than what I was through the first portion of the season until I had watched that game.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I do think he's a super high level passer. Has only had 5 games this year with at least 4 assists.
Okay.
It's just not the role that they're asking him to occupy. You know what I mean? Because they do have Alpi out there a lot of the time. They do have a men out there a lot of the time. Like, they really share the load in terms of like who's going to initiate. And that's part of what has made them so dangerous offensively is that they can get you from a variety of different directions. Like, you can throw the ball into the high post with Alpi and he can create. You can run the KD Alpi ball screen. You can have a men flying in transition. You can have, you can set up sets for a men to, drive baseline and cut and find a, backdoor pass from somebody. Or you can run these sets that they run for Reed oftentimes too, to get him loose for 3, be it just a ball screen or something on the weak side. Right. So I really, really like the way that their offense operates. It's just not what they're asking him to do consistently, I think, is like to go out and make plays. I think that they kind of probably went into this year, and I haven't talked to them about this part of it yet, but like, I bet you they went into this year and part of their goal was let's just simplify things for Reed a little bit and say, hey, just go be you, go score, go be a shooter, like go play in ball screens, go be your creative self off the bounce and like get to your spots. Right. And then we'll layer it in after that. Right. But that's what it feels like when I watch Reed, and they're weaponizing him incredibly well. And I'm really excited about the way it's working.
I agree. I think it's looked good.
Okay. The next guy we're going to go to is Modest Buzelis, because I think Modest is like the most interesting conversation maybe of any of these players, frankly. So started the year really well as the Bulls went on that awesome run at the beginning of the year. And part of what I said at that time was, I think he's been like really useful within this scheme and has been really valuable for what they do. But I still don't love a lot of what I would see in terms of like how it could work outside of the scheme, right? Because he just plays very high. I don't think he gets great leverage all the time. He's extremely reliant on the jumper and like just being able to like threaten with the jumper and then beat somebody off of a back cut or attack a closeout and try to get to somebody or play in transition with Giddey, right? And then on defense, I just haven't loved the defense. Like I was pretty upfront with that. Like, again, he just gets very high on defense and hasn't been effective. Over the last few games, I feel like it's been a little bit more complicated where, you look 18 minutes against Portland, 18 minutes against Miami, did play the 29 against Washington when they had that massive comeback. And then, last night they lost to New Orleans and he played 21 minutes and like didn't play late a ton. So I think it's pretty clear that maybe the Bulls are trying to send a message. I don't think he's like afraid of physicality. I want to say that. Like, I don't think he's afraid of like the bumps. I don't think he's afraid of playing through contact. And that's what makes me think that there is a chance that this gets figured out like at a pretty high level. And, you know, if you were making me say like upside swings in this class, like I still think there are some pretty real high end outcomes for him. But I also don't think he absorbs contact super well. And a big piece of it is because he does play as upright as he does a lot of the time. And I do think that like you do see some missed rotations from time to time, frankly. And if you look at his last 9 games, he's shooting 44% from the field, 32% from 3, 88 from the line, but doesn't take many free throws. You know, negative assist to turnover ratio, 1.2 assists to 1.8 turnovers, averaging 12 points. Rebounds the ball like inconsistently, given the fact that he's often playing the 4. Like, I think that he does need to be a little bit more of a presence on the glass if that's the role they're going to ask him to play. It's just a complicated evaluation with Modest because he does work so well within this scheme because of the up-tempo athleticism and the off-ball offensive game that kind of builds upon itself with the shooting, going into the cutting, going into the attacking closeouts, playing in transition, everything like that.
Yeah, I find myself liking the off the ball stuff that you've highlighted. Obviously the transition, I think he's a really good cutter. Like, I think he's figured that out in the half court as well. And he plays with Josh Giddey, which that's really important. And that's a guy that's going to find him, or, even playing off of Vooch, whoever. So I really like that. I feel like there's times where I see him trying to play downhill with force off the dribble, but then the results aren't always there. So just looking at the rim finishing, it's just not good, Sam. Like, it's just not very good. And then there's just not a whole lot of creativity or versatility in his scoring game. He hasn't taken a hook shot all year. And I don't always love the way Synergy tags some of their stuff, but it's still a pretty good resource just in general. He's only taken 7 floaters. He's taken 10 total dribble jumpers. That's 2s and 3s. The 3-point shooting is, the unguarded catch and shoot 3s are at 47%. So like, that's awesome. I'm not trying to like critique it, but the 3-point percentage is really propped up by that. And again, that's good as an off the ball offensive player. There's just not a whole lot else that I guess gets me excited. I still see people talk about, like you mentioned, the potential upside or ceiling. As I'm watching him this year, I just think that, like, yeah, this is a nice wing forward, probably a starter, especially if the defense can get better. I do think he's disruptive defensively. I think he'll use his length and athleticism at times to be disruptive. The transition, but some of this offensive stuff is scheme fit. So to me, it's like, I like him for Chicago as a starting wing forward. Would I love him for every team? I don't know, maybe, but I don't see like super high-end outcomes from it because I don't see a whole lot of other creativity, versatility that goes along with it. And that does have me a little bit nervous because something you kind of got me in tune to that I think is important. It's not solely a strength thing with Buzelis. It's the high hips thing and playing straight up thing. And that can be improved, but like, a lot of guys we talk about that with, we don't always see them grow that, like opening the hips, becoming more flexible with the hips, being able to bend and all of that. Like that's going to take a lot of work for him to be able to do. And that's what I think he really needs to add some of this stuff we're talking about to his game.
I think that's kind of exactly where I sit with Modest right now. There are just some steps he needs to add, and he needs to get more comfortable shooting off the dribble if he's going to hit like a real ceiling outcome at some point, which we haven't seen yet from him in the NBA. And it's because he plays this role really well in Chicago. But, over the last little while, he hasn't played it super well, to be honest, either. So it's an interesting point of, comparison right now, him first in this Chicago scheme versus what it would be anywhere else. I definitely think he's like a guy that I would take in the top 10 of this class, though, if like we were redrafting, just because I do think that there is ceiling here. But its ceiling is like an off-ball starter to me, not necessarily like an all-star caliber guy.
Sure.
Okay. I will give you the floor next. We've got Ron Holland, Donovan Clingan. We've got the Grizzlies duo. We've got Kel'el Ware. We've got Ajay Mitchell. Like, what of those guys, who is most interesting to you?
I mean, AJ is the most interesting, but I do want to do I want to talk Ron Holland because I want to get your thoughts. Like, I obviously have thoughts. I've watched every minute of his career.
I am interested to hear your thoughts as somebody. Okay. I think everyone is more interested to hear your thoughts as somebody who has watched every minute.
Very good. I think he's been good defensively. I think he's taken on that role and he's grown on the defensive end, even from what he was last year, where I think last year it was just like energy. And that was cool from a rookie and all of that. He legit comes in and like him and Sarr, I don't know, like I don't track it like 100%, but it seems like recently it's been, okay, Sarr's out, who usually takes the other team's best player. Ron's in. Ron's going to take that guy now. And I think he's done a good job and he's been disruptive and he's been good with all of that. The offense has been disappointing. I think I put it in my notes from the game on Monday night. I looked it up during the game. He's averaging like 5.5 points or 6.5 points over the last 9 games. That was before last night, Monday. Now would be Monday. And I don't think he took a shot in the game on Monday. And here's the other thing. During that stretch, Sam, was the stretch of games where all of those dudes missed time, where Cade was out and Tobias was like, all of those dudes were out. And it was Dennis that came in and was crushing it, or Paul Reed or whoever. The offense has not taken anywhere close to a jump that I think myself and then Pistons fans were kind of hoping that maybe we would see. So is he a rotation player in the NBA? I think so. The high-end ceiling is starting to have real questions because the offense just isn't growing right now.
Yeah, Philly 3 for 15, Chicago 4 for 11, Philly 4 for 15. The Washington game where basically everyone but Cade was out. It felt like he only goes 1 for 4 in that game. Yeah, I would have expected a bit more. And look, like I had Holland quite low on my board when they took him at 5, right? Like I think I had him at like 12 or something.
Sure.
And what I was worried about was the offensive skill at the end of the day. Like I totally bought the mentality. That guy works his balls off when he's on the court, plays incredibly hard. He is somebody that like I trust to go out there and just like wreak havoc for a while. But there hasn't been a whole lot of offensive growth, and we thought we might have seen it in Summer League, right?
Correct.
Like,
he
was really aggressive at Summer League and was trying to knock down shots and
did knock down shots and was creating hunting. And passing. Yeah. Like he was really, really useful at Summer League as an offensive player, and he looked like he was a guy that was taking the leap. Maybe he just needs another summer is the reality, but I don't know. Like it is really hard. I feel like we don't often see guys come from where Ron's coming from, like morph into star level outcomes, right? That's my worry now is, again, I think he's an NBA player. Like, and the jumper the jumper looks better. And I think he's eventually going to get to a manageable spot with that. The defense is real. The disruption is real. At the very least, he's like in that mold of player. Like, Derrick Jones Jr. is, something like that. My hope was not to see him score 20 a game this year, Sam. That wasn't my hope.
Maybe to have a couple 20-point games.
Correct. Especially in games where they really needed it. And he wasn't able to come through in those games and at least be averaging for the year. Maybe it's like, what he averaged last year, 5, 6, 6. Like maybe you're in double digits, right? Like if he took a jump to 10 or 11 and was at 34% from 3, I'd be like, hey, let's see it for another year. My worry for him is we're not seeing the growth, and they're just not going to think about him even taking that jump because they got to keep pushing forward.
Well, on top of it too, he doesn't really get guarded either.
Correct.
Like,
that's fair. Yeah.
Like teams don't guard him from 3. Like Tari Eason, like teams still don't like totally guard him from 3, but like when he takes shots, like he hurts other teams. You know what I mean? Like he'll make a decent percentage of those shots. Like he'll be up over like 36, 37%. I feel like pretty consistently. Ron right now is at 28% from 3. the crazy thing to me is that even though Ron has had these games where he's had the role potentially, like he's had the role for probably, I don't know, what do we want to call it, 25% of their games this year, where like he could have stepped in and like really been a useful, second or third option, maybe third option, let's call him, with Cade, right? Certainly not with like Duren has played, I think, every game but like one or two, right?
Yeah, he's played 15, but like to your point, Tobias has only played half the games. J.I. just came back. Cade missed 3 games. Like Karras has missed some games. Yes.
If I told you that was the context, you never would have guessed that Ron Holland is currently averaging fewer points per 36 minutes than what he did as a rookie, when it felt like he was like basically just standing in the corner a lot of the time.
100%. 100%.
So yeah, Holland is in an interesting position. Yeah, I think right now.
I agree.
In his career. Let's go to Clingan next, because I actually really like Clingan and continue to be very high on Donovan, averaging 10 points and 10 rebounds, 1.7 assists, 1.6 blocks, plays 25 minutes a night, has started every game for the Portland Trailblazers this year. He is taking threes now. I would like him to stop, frankly. It hurts my eyes when I watch him shoot threes right now. And I don't think teams care that he shoots them. Like if he's spacing, they leave him open. If he's picking and popping, they don't care if he's shooting, right? I just don't think it's part of his repertoire yet. And that's not a shot to say it can't be in the future. I just don't think it is right now. Having said that, like one issue that I think he has improved this year is that I think he does look better around the rim. I thought last year we saw a number of struggles with him around the basket just because he's not overly explosive and doesn't get off the ground at a super high level. This year we have seen a spike. He's shooting 65% from 2-point range versus 58% the year before. In general, I think he just looks like exactly what a starting center should look like in like year 1.5 of his career. And he is still really useful on defense in terms of his positioning and use of angles and ball screens and everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing for me, because he's not like the twitchiest, fastest reactor, all of that, but he's massive. And I love his ball screen hips. Like, this is one thing I'm always talking about. Again, not to go to Detroit Pistons, but it's like one of my biggest gripes with Jalen Duren still is he always opens his hips to the ball handler, and then he can't recover to the roller because his hips are completely the wrong direction. Clingan does a really good job keeping his hips to the roller and then plays this cat and mouse game. So I think he's very impactful there. He's very impactful on the boards. I would like him to stop going for shot fakes on the defensive end. Those are littered throughout my notes. He also, like, offensively, you just look at like little ways that he impacts the game. I think he's really good with highway screens, Sam, whether in ball screens or just like if he's straight posting up. I'm interested still to see how the offense pans out. Like, that's my thing with Clingan. I think he's an NBA player. He's good defensively, rebounds, all of that. Is he Brook Lopez, where he eventually like is able to stretch the floor? Or is it like Rudy Gobert, where, yeah, he rebounds a lot, but can he finish better than Rudy Gobert at the rim eventually? Like, can he actually work mismatches by posting them up? Like, I'm not saying he's ever going to reach the level of those guys, but like, I'm trying to figure out what is the offensive vision for him in terms of how he impacts the game, actually scoring the basketball. That's my biggest question with Clingan, I guess.
Yeah, I agree in general. Like, it might be just like limited rolling to the rim stuff. I think that maybe you get him into like an even more creative offensive situation and you have him like initiate even more from the top with his passing and letting him make quick decisions. I do think he's a real passer. Like, you know, we talk about the way that like Jalen Duren has really improved in that regard over the course of his first 4 years in the NBA, and averaged 2.7 assists his third year, 2.1 this year. But honestly, I think that 2.1 this year doesn't really assess where Duren is as a passer now. Like, I think he still is making the high level reads. It's just for whatever reason, his assist numbers are down. I think Clingan can do every bit of that. in terms of the passing and playmaking. He's just not necessarily the downhill force that Duren is athletically in terms of finishing at the rim and everything like that with his length. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's that. Maybe you have him initiate a little bit more from the high post and, have him play as like a dribble handoff reject guy, and then he's hitting cutters consistently as opposed to just like occasionally throughout the course of games, and you make him a little bit more of a hub that way. I don't know. I do think the scoring has gotten better this year. Like, I think he's gotten more effective than what he was a season ago. He's shooting 68% at the rim in half court settings this year, which is a good number. Problem is that he's only getting there twice per game in half court settings now.
And that's on almost 5 offensive rebounds. So I have to assume that, I wouldn't say a majority, but a lot of those attempts are coming off offensive boards. So it's like, and maybe you don't, Sam, maybe you don't need to integrate him into an offense anymore. It's just, a second year player. What's the next step? What's the next stride? I think defensively for me, it is staying down on shot fakes and being more impactful on the defensive boards. And then offensively, it's like, what is the finishing or what is the scoring for him where he can provide? Again, I'm not trying to get him to 20 points a game, but can we get to 14 or 15? What is the path to that is my question.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's crazy. I feel like they're using him in fewer handoffs this year. Just like anecdotally as I watch them, I don't know if that's true necessarily, like if the numbers would bear it out, but just like watching them, I feel like he's being used less in handoff situations. And then like pick and rolls right now.
Synergy says 0. He's been in 0 handoffs this year, according to Synergy.
That's pretty funny. So. 11 of 16 in pick and roll, going to the 2-point area. So like picking and diving to the rim. So he's just not getting there enough, frankly. It's happening like once per game, and he's not even making 1 shot per game. But when he does it, he's been effective. It's like, he's making, 7 out of 10 of them almost, it feels like. So, defensively, he's awesome. Like, I think he is a real defender. Every single time I watch them, I'm like, this is exactly what a second year big should look like defensively. The movement stuff is still not incredible, I would argue, but when he's in the game right now, they win by 1.5. When he's out of the game, they lose by 5.2, and mostly that is defensively. They allow 114.1 points per 100 possessions when he's on the court versus 122.3 when he is off the court. And a huge part of that is that he just completely shuts down the paint.
Yeah.
Opponents are shooting 3% higher from 3 when he's on the court, but they're shooting 4.5% lower from 2-point range when he's off or when he's on the court. So we're not even getting like the benefit of noise here. He's just an incredibly impactful defender with how he protects the rim and how good he is in ball screen coverages, how sharp he is, how much he moves. He's just a smart player.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go to Edey next, because Edey is probably the easiest conversation. We haven't seen him play a crazy amount this year. We've seen him play 5 games. He's averaging 10 points and 7.6 rebounds, 21 minutes a night. So we still haven't seen him like really, really ramp up in that way. Getting to the line a ton, that's, a thing that he didn't do last year, but is starting to do now more consistently. He's getting there almost 4 times a game in 21 minutes, which is a big number. Again, crushing the glass in 21 minutes a night with, almost 8 rebounds a night. Just a huge anchor point for them. That like they have completely changed in the way teams play them with Edey back on the court. Like even in the games where Jaren has not played, where Edey has played, I just have felt like they seem so much more structurally sound when Zach is on the court, because they have like a son to rotate around defensively. And he is just so big and so long that, if you play the right scheme defensively, he's just going to be able to be impactful on that side of it.
Massive. I think the number that stands out to me, you mentioned it, we'll hit it again, small sample, but even a steal a game, which I think that can be, go underappreciated. Just these guys that are massive or have great wingspans or whatever, just getting steals as well, being impactful in every way on the defensive end. His blocks are even up just a little bit. And then scoring wise, he's going to be impactful on the offensive boards. It's just hard to get him off his spot because he's so massive. So if he gets to his spot, He goes over that left shoulder with his right hand hook. And he has, as we saw all the way through college, he has an ability to really make that shot. So I kind of want to watch it a little bit more as it goes throughout the year. But so far, I think it's been, what we saw and what we've anticipated and expected from Edey in Memphis.
And look, the game that they played last night against Denver, he obviously left that game early. He got hit in the head in the first quarter and didn't return. I will say that, Edey played 66 games last season. He's only gotten to play, 4 and a quarter, let's go with, this season. He is so thoroughly unafraid of contact and initiates contact. And I guess I do have some slight worries about if he's going to be healthy throughout the course of his career, just because of the play style as much as anything. But do you know what their defensive rating is when he's on the court, Bryce?
107.
102.7.
Wow. That's good.
Is their defensive rating when he is on the court. It is wild how good they have been defensively. And look, part of this is that they played Cleveland, San Antonio, Sacramento, Dallas. And Sacramento is the 27th rated offense. We know Dallas's offense is truly catastrophic, and we should never discuss it, and we should kill it with fire. But, in San Antonio is obviously without Wemby and Castle. I believe Castle didn't play in that game, if memory serves. I did watch that. I think he didn't. Yeah, is my memory. So look, not a ton of super high level offenses that they've played, but it just feels more cohesive when he's out on the court. It feels easier for everybody when they know that he's the guy behind them, instead of, all due respect to my Australian brother, Jock Lawndale, just it's not as much of a presence.
It's different.
So it's a little bit different. While we're here, do you want to talk about Jalen Wells, who I had third in rookie of the year last year? By the end of the year, I had him first for the first 3 quarters of the year. I thought he was awesome. We had him on the show, or on the channel at least, to kind of break down his game a little bit. It's just been a rough start as a shooter at this point.
Yeah, he's just not making shots, I think is. Yeah. Listen, sometimes I think people that listen to us know this, that we will get into the weeds if it's necessary to get into the weeds. And I don't know that I have that to do right now. I think he's just not making shots, and we'll see if it continues throughout the whole year. Then there may be a bigger conversation. I guess I'm just expecting that he starts making shots, and then we see the impact and continue to value it. But I think that's just the thing right now.
Yeah. So 24.1% from 3 in his first 10 games. I'm sorry. Has been at 38.5% from 3 again in his last 8 games. It's starting to turn a little bit, and we're starting to get to the point where Wells has been pretty useful again. In those, 8 games that he's played, 12 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 45, 39, 69 from the field. Again, works really hard on defense. I think that the first 10 games of the year probably soured some people on Wells in a real way. He has at least turned it, I would say, to where he's back to being a low end starting wing in the NBA is what it feels like to me right now. Would I still rather have him on the court than Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? I would, to be honest with you. Even though I think that, they're right around pretty similar numbers. It's just that, again, I don't really trust KCP to consistently make shots. Would I rather have him out there than Vince Williams? I think I would. But would I rather him out there than Cedric Howard? I would not. So even though Coward's 3-point percentage has come back down to earth finally again. So, Wells is what he is, and that's what we said last year. It was just really valuable last year in a down rookie class because he was immediately able to give impactful minutes before they completely fell apart. I don't know that he's a tangibly worse basketball player. It's just the shots didn't fall early in the year, and they're starting to fall now, and he's back to being useful again.
I was thinking about that today whenever we do the all rookie stuff here in a week or so, and we're going to have people yell at us because they're, if Cooper Flagg's not number one or whoever's not number one, they're going to say, well, you guys are crazy. It's not a projection of what they will be through their career. And that was it last year with Jalen Wells. It was a evaluation and an analysis over throughout the season and what he was all year last year compared to other rookies. And yeah, I don't think either of us would have taken him third in a redraft immediately after the season. But based on how he had played and how other guys had played and even injuries, that's just where he landed. I think essentially he is still looking like the player I thought he was going to be, which is way better than I thought he was going to be coming into the NBA. But it was never this high level wing. And it's just like a fringe starter wing that, again, has to knock down shots.
The other big guy that I think we have to talk about here is Kel'el Ware. He has been awesome recently, like really, really good. Last 3 games, he's been over 20 or been at 20 points in each of those 3 games. If you look at his last 12 games, they are 9-3 in this time. He has started 9 of those games because Bam went out with an injury, and averaging 14 points, 13 rebounds, still like never really passes the ball, but shooting 54, 45, 81 from the field during that time. 4.3 of those rebounds are offensive rebounds per game. He is like really, really turned a corner for Miami here recently and is back to being even frankly like an elevated version of the guy that we saw last year after the halfway point.
It's always about consistently with Kel'el Ware, Sam. I mean, at the end of the day, it just is. I watched a game recently against the Knicks where I thought he was really good. His size and athleticism around the rim on both ends of the court. It's undeniable what he can do. He has real lob gravity and range. And then defensively, he can protect the rim. I think on the season, he's over a steal and over a block per game. In that game against the Knicks, his rim protection really showed up late. He blocked a Towns floater. Deuce McBride comes in and just like chucks a floater way up in the air because Ware's coming over. And then he contested a Towns fadeaway. I thought he did a good job on Towns in general late in the game, even defending him as a floor stretching big. I thought he was good with his rebounding, his play finishing. It's just how consistently throughout a season can he do this? You mentioned the offensive rebounding. I think what stands out to me is the defensive rebounding in this sophomore class. He is heads above everybody else in terms of defensive rebounds per game at 7.5. And, averaging a double-double as a sophomore on these shooting splits. The talent is there. We'll just see how consistent he can be. I mean, here's the thing, Sam. 12, 11, a steal, and a block per game while shooting 40% from 3. I'm sure you can do some, how many guys have done that in the first couple of years of their career, and I'm sure he ends up in pretty good company. So it's just, he's an impressive player. He has real skill along with the length and athleticism. It's just how consistent can he bring that?
Yeah. So offensively, I think he looks awesome. The game that like really stands out to me is actually the Cavs game that went to overtime maybe like 2 weeks ago, where like he had 14 and 20 in that game.
Yeah.
And both Jared Allen and Evan Mobley played in that game. Like it was actually like genuinely really impressive the way that he was able to control the glass in that game. And like 7 of those were offensive rebounds. He just consistently was active and aggressive. And I think a lot of it with him sometimes does come down to like a mentality thing where if he is like engaged and locked in and like decides, no, I'm the most athletic guy on the court. There are, I don't know. He's the most athletic big man on the court in 25 games out of 30 that he'll play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he just is like, so few guys are 7 foot with a 7'6" wingspan who can jump like he can, who move like up and down the court like a wing. Like he is a total joke athletically. I still don't love the defense, if I'm being honest. I still get frustrated by it. I still think like his positioning in ball screens, like he gets kind of in between, no man's land a little bit too often. obviously, like a big piece of this is that a ton of the minutes recently have come without Bam, and I am like so hesitant to make large structural statements on Miami's defense because without Bam, it just totally changes, right? Like Bam is their defensive structure in a lot of ways. He's a huge reason why they can get versatile defensively. He's a huge reason why they are what they are on that end. But on some level too, look, like when he's been out on the court, they have a 114.3 defensive rating, which isn't like catastrophic. Like if we just say what it is when he's on the court, as opposed to like, trying to say what the on-offs are, because we know the off number is going to be bad when Bam is there, right? Like that's just the reality of the situation. Or like when Bam is your guy and you're playing some replacement minutes, it's going to be worse. But I will say that like by and large, even the Bam Kel'el minutes like haven't been great this year. If you look at, the 84 they've played together, they're actually losing those minutes by 6 per 100 possessions because, the defense hasn't been quite as hot. You know what I mean? So it's a tricky proposition right now with Kel'el and with Bam, but I am mostly enthusiastic about what I've seen from Kel'el because he is willing to crash the glass now as aggressively as we have seen throughout the course of his career. Like he has, 10 plus rebounds in 9 straight games now, which is huge. And I would love to see the passing improve. I would love to see the defense improve. I can sit here and nitpick certain things, but the reality is that this guy's probably a starting center in the NBA at the end of the day.
I think I agree.
Almost like he would have to be so bad on defense to not be a starting center in the NBA. And I don't think he's so bad on defense. The question is, can he make the Jalen Duren leap at some point? Especially given that, this is a guy that already can shoot like 3 threes a game and make them at 40%, like we've seen this year too. The standard for him as a ball handler is probably even lower than what Duren's is on some level that he will have to reach. So interesting player, like very, very interesting player that I think has really kind of come into his own during that, like, Bam Adebayo little spell on the sideline.
Yep.
So, okay. Next up, let's do Mitchell next, because that was the big one you wanted to talk about. Now we've saved him for last. Ajay Mitchell's having an incredible season. There's just not really another way to put it. He's been, I don't know, like, is it fair to call him the secondary ball handler a lot of the time for Oklahoma City? Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like I think that's just kind of true, even though he's only started 5 games. Like he is playing 28 minutes a night. He's averaging 16 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 46, 34, 89. He has a true shooting percentage that is like 2 or 3 points below league average, but is still fine given the usage that he's taking on for this team as a second-year point guard. Like very, very rarely turns the ball over when I watch them. He is still solid enough on defense. He's not one of their best defenders, but knows where he's supposed to be on that end, doesn't hurt them on that end. AJ Mitchell's awesome. Like here would be my question though. I do see some people bring up the idea that they think he has like this Jalen Brunson leap in him if he was to go somewhere else. Right. And I guess like I shouldn't rule that out. Like it took Brunson until he was, 24, 25 and in his 3rd year to be able to make that leap. And we're just not there with Mitchell yet. I would say that AJ's first 2 years have been a little bit better than Jalen's first 2 years even. But I feel like I don't see quite the same level of elite footwork, of like true touch that Brunson had, and of obviously like the power. Like Brunson has always had the power and like strength to be able to kind of get to certain spots on the court that he needs to. I don't know. Like, am I being overly harsh by saying like, I don't know if he has that kind of leap in him, but I do think that he's like a starting guard somewhere for sure.
Well, I don't think it's overly harsh. Jalen Brunson's one of the best players in the NBA. So to say, here's the thing. The leap that Ajay Mitchell has taken is absolutely incredible. Like, there's no question he's in the most improved player conversation. He's in 6th man of the year conversation, like all of this stuff. He's been incredible. The leap from where Ajay Mitchell is at right now to Jalen Brunson, that's a long leap. And so I'm not saying he can't do it. And if people think he can, like, cool, I'll listen to it. I'm just saying to like not just automatically subscribe to it, I think is fair. I will point this out. In the higher volume, his efficiency has gone down, from last year to this year. Now that's expected, but I actually wrote recently in one of the games I watched is I am interested to track this. Where does the 3-point percentage hold? Where does the 2-point percentage hold? Where does all of that stuff go? Even as good as he has been. And I think the craziest stat to me that I saw on a broadcast recently, Shea's number 1 among guards in paint points. Ajay Mitchell is number 6 in the NBA in terms of paint points. Yeah, just a crazy, crazy number. Now that's when they played the Kings. So I don't know how many games ago that was. So things could have changed by now, but he's been really good. Obviously that Sacramento game was on the 19th. So that would have been, almost 10 days ago by the time people are listening to this, but really good player, can attack. I think defensively you brought up, like he at least has that size to hold off of the cutoff point. So I really like him. And again, the numbers speak for themselves in terms of his ability to pressure the rim. I don't think it's unfair to wonder if like maybe this is the perfect role for him. Whether it's 6th man or even a starting guard, but I don't know that he's like the face of your franchise number 1 option. That's a big leap from what we're seeing right now.
I think he's probably more of this is a terrific starting guard.
Sure.
Like, that you're very happy to have, as opposed to like a true like number 1 guy. But man, I don't know if you watched the Portland game.
The recent, he is
good. Like it's like 2 or 3 nights ago. He was so ridiculous. Like I think he went like 8 for 8 from the field and just had 20 points and like just consistently got where he wanted on the court. He's just so good in finding those little areas. He's so crafty in how he uses his body. I just don't know if he's ever going to be like the Jalen Brunson level of strength to like completely hold guys off like this, but maybe I'm wrong. Like I do think he's like definitely a starting guard somewhere at some point. I don't know if Oklahoma City is going to be able to keep him past this contract. But while they have him on this contract, it's very clearly going to be on our best contracts list when we do it.
They're going to draft Darren Peterson, so then they'll be able to trade Ajay Mitchell. The thing is, I think I agree with you. I think he probably is a starting guard in the NBA. It's just like that again, it's a huge leap. It's a huge leap. But if people think that's, and I also think Jalen Brunson is just, what he does is not easy to do on volume, night in and night out. I think that's a hard archetype to replicate, but I don't want it to get lost. Ajay Mitchell is awesome. I think he's been awesome. He's having a great year, and I think he's going to continue even as J-Dub gets back and they're healthy and all that. I think Ajay Mitchell is very much ingrained in this rotation and what they're doing. Like that's my biggest thing.
I am really interested to see how the J-Dub inclusion impacts AJ at this point, because I do think a lot of those possessions, like particularly when Shea comes out, those traditionally have gone to Jaylen. Does Jaylen like share the load a little bit more consistently now? Like, I think he is the kind of person that now that he's gotten like his contract and it's locked in and it's locked in at a certain number, I think he'd probably be fine sharing the load. Honestly, like he just wants to win at the end of the day. So I'm very interested. Like that is one of the most compelling storylines to me, is just how do they do the AJ and, Jaylen off the bench thing. Obviously they're incredibly complementary of one another, in my opinion. And you can play AJ with, you can always just have 2 of these 3 guys on the court and it's super valuable.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that like AJ is a big reason why they are what they are right now. And they're 16-1 at the time, 17-1
17
at the time that we're recording this. I think that they play again, not tonight, but tomorrow against Minnesota. And then I think that'll be the only game since we've recorded this. He's a huge reason why they're 17-1 right now. And like they wouldn't be 17-1 without him being able to take as much offensive like load as he's been able to in terms of usage.
I will say this. At one point, I thought Aaron Wiggins was the player on their team that I think would kind of catapult the most if he went to another team where his role was expanded. I think Ajay Mitchell actually might be the answer to that now. Like if he went to a team where he was a starting guard playing 34 minutes a night and all of that, it might actually be him. He's been awesome.
Yeah. Okay. The last guy I want to like really talk about is Tristan da Silva, because I think he's been really useful for Orlando this year. And it's just in the ways that we always talk about with Tristan. You know, he's just a really smart mover without the ball. He knocks down his shots from distance. He's at 40% from three right now in 5 attempts per game, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, just consistently finds open areas to impact the game. He's big, he's long, he's 6'8", and he is just a helpful player. I feel like every single time that I see him take the court for the Orlando Magic is kind of the easiest way to phrase it. He had that little run there, right as they started to figure things out, where in a nine game stretch, he was averaging like 14, 5 and 1 while shooting 50, 45, 70 or something. And, it's been like a little bit less, since like the last couple of games, but another huge reason why they've been able to turn it around is his shooting, his intelligence off the ball. I love him in terms of the way that, you can utilize him within like an intentional offense, which is the word that I keep using with Orlando. It's just like intentionality on offense. And they've gotten so much more intentional recently.
He's just such a great fit for what they need. He doesn't need the ball on a team that, as we talked about on a recent episode, I don't want to say there's questions, but they're kind of figuring out like Paulo, Franz, Bain. So like he can just come in. He leads this team in 3-point makes, Sam. He's, in terms of minutes played, he's 5th, but he's number 1 in 3-pointers made, shooting at 40%. And I mean, honestly, I would love for them to find even more time for him, even when they're fully healthy. He is up to 24 minutes a night, comes off the bench whenever they're, fully have everybody. And it's not like you can insert him into the starting lineup over one of those guys, but get this guy minutes, because it's not just the 3-point shooting. He's a great cutter, a tremendous cutter on a team that can really use that. And then they've done a little bit more off the bounce. And so that's interesting. Not maybe a great guy doing that, but I just think he's a great fit for them offensively. And then defensively, I think he's a good, Orlando's been better defensively here lately. I think he's a good team defender. You just can't like leave him on an island a whole bunch against high level offensive players, but I think he knows where to be off the ball defensively.
Yep. And then the last guy you wanted to talk about was Jaylon Tyson.
Yeah, I don't know that it's been as much recently. I just think he had a really good start to the season in terms of, he was in that starting lineup for the Cleveland Cavaliers whenever.
To be clear, he still is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought there was a game I saw or two where he wasn't starting, but he's knocking down threes, like 48% from the 3-point line. I think he's an active defender that can be disruptive. And so I just think he kind of deserved a shout out here, where he's come in, he started games for them, he's made threes, and he's been impactful where they've had to deal with some guys not being in the lineup.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I love the aggressiveness that he's shown, like the downhill driving at times that we've gotten to see from him, which is, similar to what we saw when he was at Cal, right? Like just a real comfort level with his ability to find little creases and cracks within the flow of their offense, has made, the threes that have come available to him. Like he took 11 in that Atlanta game, which was a little bit of a surprise to me. And, coming off of 8 that he took in the Toronto game. But since he's been back, he had that little, I believe it was like a little injury he had. I can't remember exactly what it was off the top of my head. His been back to kind of doing what he was doing before already. 14 points against Indiana, 15 points in the loss to Toronto. What was that? I was on Monday is when that was. I get these games so confused in my head. But look, like in his last 10, he's averaging 14.6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 stocks, 1.2 steals, 0.8 blocks, 55, 49, 80. He's not getting to the line a ton, but like I do feel like the transition stuff has been useful. And I do think that like the defensive energy is there with him, which it was at Texas Tech. It wasn't really in his last year in college. It's interesting to see him the question for me is, can he like blend those two things together? And I think that like the defensive energy has generally been pretty useful this year.
Yeah. I think one other thing I'm interested with him is it's such a small sample. It's not even fair to really judge yet, but sometimes I worry about these guys like, okay, you're in the starting lineup. You're getting these consistent minutes from a starting lineup. You know exactly kind of like what your role is with these quote unquote, the better guys and all of that. And he's been really good in the games off the bench. The offense hasn't been quite as good as in the games that he started. I am just interested to see, like, can he take what he's doing in the starting lineup and then when they're fully healthy, go to the bench and provide the same value in perhaps less minutes with different rotations and all of that. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just always kind of interested with guys in terms of their ability to do that.
Yeah, he had a concussion, by the way. I'll just to follow up on that. I couldn't remember exactly what the injury was, so I decided to go back and actually look at it. Yeah, like he missed a few games there due to a concussion.
There you go. Okay,
so that slowed him down for a minute.
There it was.
But
okay.
Yeah, since he's been back, he's been kind of back to exactly what he was previously, which is great. That's a big win if they can get him in the rotation consistently, and like he's providing this level of impact. It'll be huge. Okay, so like just a grab bag here. Like we have the Toronto guys that we love. We love Jamal Shead. Jamal Shead has been so good to start the year. I don't know that we need to like dig super deeply into Shead here because we did it a week ago, right? When we did Toronto.
Here's what I'll promise, Sam. One of my takeaways on Sunday will involve Jamal Shead.
Really? Okay.
I mean, not him individually, but like my overarching topic involves players like Jamal Shead in that ilk. And so we'll be able to talk about him a little bit.
So here's my number on Jamal Shead. Do you know where Jamal Shead ranks right now in assists per 36 minutes league wide?
Top 10.
He is currently second behind Nikola Jokic in assists per 36 minutes right now at 10.9.
Yeah.
His passing has been immaculate this season. We talk a lot about the defense because the defense is what it is, right? Like he is so aggressive and so like strong at the point of attack and really sets the tone and keys like the top of their defense in the 20 minutes that he plays per game. But he's hitting shots from three. He's at 42% from three. He's averaging 5.7 assists per game in like almost 20 minutes a night. And he has just been so good kind of across the board. Every single time that we watch them and that we talk about them, I feel like we end up talking about Jamal Shead just because of how useful he has been. They are a plus 12.8 points per 100 possessions when Jamal Shead is on the court versus a plus 2.9 when he's off the court. I don't think it is crazy to say that Jamal Shead has been a genuinely critical piece of the team that is currently second in the Eastern Conference right now. He has been awesome this season. And again, this is a guy I had a first round grade on. I freaking love Jamal. Like I am a big fan.
Yeah. And have one of the better winning streaks going in the NBA right now at time of recording. Again, I'll save some of this because him and other players in his role are who I want to talk about for one of my takeaways on Sunday.
Yeah, and look, like Jacoby Walter is the other guy here. He's played almost every game for them. He plays like a very minimal role, come in, knock down shots. You know, it's been fine for Jacoby to start his career. Anyone that you want to talk about?
I don't think we have to talk about him because I don't think it's like, but Pelle Larsson for the Miami I think has been good. 48% from the field, 35% from three, has started a bunch of games for them. Yep. I think he just like, he's fine. Like my worry about him coming in was I didn't know what his like superpower elite skill was. I still don't know that I have an answer to that other than he kind of does everything okay. And that's working for him in the Miami Heat lineup right now.
Yeah. Over his last 10, he's averaging 12, 3 rebounds, almost 5 assists per game versus only 1.6 turnovers, 47, 35, 75. Yeah, I mean, to me, when I watch him, it's just that he's kind of good at everything, useful at everything, not great at anything. Wouldn't call him a great defender, but he's athletic and he's strong, so he can hold up there. He is not like a monster shooter, but he's a good enough shooter to where you probably have to guard him realistically. And then, he'll attack closeouts and make high level passes regularly. Like he just always knows where his teammates are. It's one of those games where like there isn't a huge conversation to be had because it's not a sexy game. It is just a very functional, useful game that he plays.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we at least mentioned him.
Yeah, and then the other weird guy that we do have to talk about is probably Jared McCain, just because McCain was so useful last season in the minutes that he played. And then this year, it just like has not been good. And also like the role seems to be amorphous. Let's go with like he played finally a bunch of games over the week or a bunch of minutes over the weekend against Miami. And they finally let him like off the chain a little bit. And he goes out and he drops 15 points, makes 3 of 4 from 3 and just looked better. I felt like, looked a lot more like he felt like he wasn't going to get yanked from the game immediately if he missed some shots. Right. I'm interested to see where this goes because like his first 4 games, like he literally didn't score and they had him playing for like 5 minutes a night. It felt like, and it was just like, he was kind of in and then he was out. And, now that VJ is, seemingly out here just for a second at least. And then, Kelly Oubre, I believe is out for tonight's game as well. I would imagine that he's going to have to play like a pretty real number of minutes and take on real usage in this next little run. And, it'll be worth evaluating him then, but just in terms of the timing of when we're doing this, it feels like he's still coming back from the knee injury and it's just not like we're getting a great sample yet.
He's trending in the right way leading up to this, but I will say of what I've watched so far, my just immediate thoughts was this might take half the season before we see him fully back, and maybe even longer. And maybe it happens quicker, maybe he goes crazy tonight, but that was kind of my thought as I've watched him, or at least it's going to be a little bit inconsistent, which is understandable. So I think we got to give him a little more time before we can like truly dig into it with him.
Yeah. Kyle Filipowski, doing his thing, coming off the bench now for Utah, 8 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, can step out and shoot, can dribble a little bit, can be useful there. I would be remiss, Bryce, if I did not note the legend, the icon, the guiding light of this show and this YouTube channel, Cameron Spencer, Esquire. I assume that he will go in and be an attorney at some point because he is an attorney of making me enjoy basketball. I can assure you of that.
Can we get some gear or something? I realized this the other day. I had a friend of a team finally send me some gear and I'm like, where's everybody else at? So I think Cam Spencer owes us some gear for all of the love we give him on this podcast. I love gear. Yeah. I love free gear. That's my favorite thing in life.
Bryce is a gear guy. Cam, wasn't playing a ton early in the year, but if you look at his last 11 games, 12 points, 3.3 assists versus 0.7 turnovers, 47, 44, 91 from 3.
Knocks down shots.
Or from splits. Guy's knocking down shots. He's drilling 44% on 5 3-point attempts per game. He's just kind of worked his way into the lineup and you can't really take him out now. He's like a bad smell. Like you just can't get rid of it. You can't get rid of him from the lineup at this point. He's too useful for them on offense and he competes on defense and he is not athletic by NBA standards and just still figures out a way to make it work. I like this guy. It was such an easy call to me that he's an NBA player just knowing the crazy mentality and everything that kind of goes along with him just being the competitor that he is, and he's figuring it out, and I love it.
Yeah. A few, I think the Minnesota guys are ones that, especially a couple of them, maybe across the board, have been a little disappointing in terms of not giving Minnesota what you would want. I'd say Jalen Clark's probably been the best of the trio. He's not even like a 24 draftee, is he? He's like a 23, right? Oh, he showed up on NBA.com whenever.
Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, he's a sophomore.
No, he's 23. He's second-year player, but he was drafted in 23 because he missed the whole year with the knee injury.
Okay.
Right.
So yeah, NBA.com just has it. My bad. So,
yeah. But he's been, if we want to talk about him, he's been freaking incredible on defense, Bryce.
He's awesome defensively. In his 36, but still, 16 minutes a night. It's really the other two haven't been able to, like Shannon Jr. hasn't been able. He's only played 8 games so far. Dillingham, 15 games, but 10 minutes. It's just, we came into this year like which one of these guys would have to emerge with Na gone. And it's, I feel like they're still trying to figure that out. Maybe Jaylen's just going to be the answer. Yep.
I think there's a real chance of that. Dillingham has not been very good in the minutes that I've seen. Has looked kind of unplayable to me. And then Shannon, hasn't played much. Like he's been dealing with that foot injury here and there, and then just hasn't played a ton. So I don't know that we would even want to dive super.
No, I don't think there was a conversation to be had. It was more just, I thought it was worth mentioning as we're going through it.
Yeah. Tidjane, Salaun, and Cody Williams just, right now don't look like NBA players. And that's, the reality of what this top 10 was probably going to look like. I still would like to see more Devin Carter minutes. We'll just kind of close on that. And if you're not going to play him, let's get him out of there and let's see what it looks like. I know the offense has been truly catastrophic, but I do think he's pretty useful on defense for for a team that pretty desperately would be able to use it.
Yeah. My thoughts on the Kings.
Yeah, again, can't emphasize enough. Very, very, very bad on defense or on offense. I'm sorry, with Devin Carter. Devin has not shot it well so far. Okay, Bryce, that's what we got. We're out of here. We're going to try and end this in under 2 hours. Tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
At Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack. If your favorite team plays the Pistons, have notes not just on Detroit, but also on your favorite team. The Game Theory Substack, where I've dropped a couple videos here recently. Hopefully we'll get a couple more this week, or maybe already have come out as you're listening on Friday. And then, of course, keep it locked right here, Game Theory Podcast with the Sam Vecenie.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. Go to the Substack, Game Theory, samv.substack.com, gametheory.samv.substack.com. We will have videos throughout the course of this week. I can tell you definitely Cam Carr and definitely Nate Ament. I might have to watch Tunde Yesufu at some point too, because I've not loved what I've seen, to be honest with you. So we will talk about him at some point. We're going to have a lot to talk about on the NBA draft show this coming week, which is exciting. Keep it locked here. We will be back on Sunday with takeaways. Next Thursday will definitely be awards, I've decided. So Bryce, you can start gathering your takes on awards for first quarter. That will be the Thursday show next week, or the Friday show, I guess, by the time it gets released. And that's where we're at. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for subscribing. We're up over 84,000 subscribers, which is just a crazy bonkers number that does not make any sense to me. I appreciate all of you immensely for coming to hang out, listening to the show, being a part of the show. We will have to do a Q&A at some point for you guys, because we are just so appreciative of the way the audience has grown. That's where we're at. Until next time, we will talk soon. Bye.